Picture this. You're standing over your crying baby at 3 a.m., carefully wrapping them in a soft blanket, making sure it's loose and comfortable because that's what feels right to you as a parent. But here's the shocking truth. You're actually making your baby cry more. 95% of parents make this exact same mistake, and it's the reason why so many babies seem to hate being swaddled. A groundbreaking Harvard study revealed something that goes against every parenting instinct you have. The looser you make that swaddle, the more your baby will cry. Stay with me for the next 5 minutes, and I'll show you the counterintuitive swaddling technique that can transform your screaming baby into a sleeping angel. Most loving parents approach swaddling the same way. They'd want to be tucked into bed, loose, comfortable, with room to move and breathe. It seems logical, right? You wrap your baby gently, leaving space for their arms to bend naturally, making sure the blanket isn't too snug around their body. But then something frustrating happens. Your baby breaks out of the swaddle within minutes. Their arms flail around and the crying gets worse instead of better. You try rewrapping them, but they escape again. Eventually, you give up and think your baby simply doesn't like being swaddled. This creates a vicious cycle where parents abandon swaddling altogether, missing out on one of the most powerful calming tools available. The problem isn't that your baby hates swaddling. The problem is that you're doing it wrong, and your natural parenting instincts are actually working against you. Here's what Harvard researchers discovered that will blow your mind. In their study of hundreds of newborns, babies who were swaddled loosely cried significantly more than babies who were swaddled tightly. The one mistake that's sabotaging your sleep? You're swaddling too loosely, especially around the arms. This goes against everything we think we know about comfort, but babies aren't mini adults. For 9 months, your baby lived in the most cramped quarters imaginable, your womb. By the end of pregnancy, they couldn't even stretch their arms or legs. That tight, restricted environment wasn't torture for them. It was home. It was safe, secure, and comforting. When you swaddle loosely, you're giving them a freedom they don't want and can't handle. The counterintuitive truth that most parents struggle to accept is this: the tighter the swaddle, the calmer your baby will be. To understand why tight swaddling works, you need to picture what life was like inside the womb. Your baby spent their final weeks completely unable to move their arms or legs freely. Every surface of their body was pressed against the walls of your uterus. This constant pressure was deeply comforting and helped regulate their nervous system. When a baby is swaddled loosely, their arms can still trigger what's called the startle reflex, or Moro reflex. This is an involuntary response where their arms suddenly jerk outward, waking them up and causing distress. Tight swaddling prevents this reflex from activating by keeping the arms secured against the body. Here's another critical mistake parents make. They position the baby's arms bent at the elbow, just like they were positioned in the womb. But this bent arm position actually makes it easier for babies to work their way out of loose swaddles. When arms are bent, babies can use leverage to push against the fabric and create gaps. Additionally, loose swaddle blankets can become safety hazards as they can unravel during sleep and create suffocation risks. Proper tight swaddling triggers a neurological response that activates the baby's calming system, lowering their heart rate and reducing stress hormones. The biggest arm positioning mistake parents make is allowing the arms to stay bent like they were in the womb. This seems natural, but it's completely wrong for swaddling. When arms are bent, babies can easily work their hands up toward their face and break free from even a relatively tight swaddle. The correct technique requires placing both arms straight down at the baby's sides, pressed firmly against their body. This might look uncomfortable to adult eyes, but remember, comfort for babies is completely different from comfort for adults. Straight arms create a streamlined shape that's much harder to escape from. The arms should be positioned so that the baby's hands rest alongside their thighs, not bent up toward their chest or face. This straight arm position also prevents the baby from scratching their face with their fingernails, which is another benefit of proper swaddling technique. How tight is tight enough? The swaddle should be so secure that you cannot slide your hand between the baby's chest and the blanket. The fabric should not shift, bunch up, or allow any wiggle room around the arms and torso. Many parents worry this is too restrictive, but remember that your baby spent months in a space tighter than any swaddle you could create. The blanket should feel almost like a second skin, snug and immovable. However, there's an important distinction between arm tightness and hip tightness. While the arms and chest area should be wrapped very tightly, the hip area must remain loose to allow for healthy hip development and prevent hip dysplasia. You should be able to fit your hand between the blanket and your baby's hips and legs. The key is tight arms and loose hips. If your baby can wiggle their arms free within the first few minutes, your swaddle isn't tight enough. Start with a large, thin blanket laid out like a diamond shape. Fold the top corner down about 6 inches to create a straight edge. Place your baby on their back with their shoulders positioned just below this folded edge. Their head should be completely above the blanket. Take your baby's left arm and place it straight down against their side, then pull the left corner of the blanket across their body. The fabric should go over the arm, across the chest, and tuck tightly under their back on the right side. Make sure you pull the blanket taut as you wrap. There should be no slack. Next, take the bottom corner of the blanket and fold it up over your baby's feet, leaving the hip area loose. Now comes the critical part. Take the right corner and pull it across your baby's body with significant tension. This final wrap should be so tight that it compresses the previous layers and creates an escape-proof cocoon. Tuck the end of the blanket securely under your baby's body. The finished swaddle should look compact and neat, with no loose fabric anywhere around the arms or chest. While tight swaddling is crucial for calming, safety must always come first. The most important rule is maintaining loose hips to prevent hip dysplasia, a condition where the hip joint doesn't develop properly. The hip area of the swaddle should allow your baby's legs to bend up and spread apart naturally. Never straighten your baby's legs or wrap them tightly together. Watch for signs of overheating, which includes sweating, rapid breathing, flushed cheeks, or feeling hot to the touch. Use lightweight, breathable fabrics and dress your baby in light clothing underneath the swaddle. Always place swaddled babies on their backs to sleep, never on their side or stomach. Stop swaddling immediately when your baby shows any signs of rolling over, which typically happens between 2 and 4 months of age. At this point, the swaddle becomes a safety hazard because it restricts the arm movement needed to roll safely. If your baby can roll while swaddled, it's time to transition to other sleep methods. What if your baby still fights against a properly tight swaddle? First, make sure you're swaddling at the right time. Ideally when your baby is calm or drowsy, not in the middle of a crying fit. Some babies need time to adjust to tight swaddling, especially if they've gotten used to having their arms free. Try the gradual approach. Start with one arm swaddled tightly while leaving the other arm free, then progress to both arms after a few days. If your baby continues to resist, check your technique. You might not be wrapping tightly enough, or the timing might be off. Remember that some babies will fuss for a few minutes when first swaddled tightly, but this usually settles quickly once they adjust. However, if your baby consistently cries more when swaddled than when free, there might be underlying issues like reflux or gas that need addressing first. Also consider that not every baby responds to swaddling. About 10% of babies genuinely prefer having their arms free, and that's completely normal. Tonight, when your baby starts getting fussy, try this tight swaddling technique exactly as I've described. Remember, tighter than feels natural to you, arms straight down and secure enough that they can't escape. If this video opened your eyes to the counterintuitive world of baby care, hit that subscribe button because I share more shocking, science-backed parenting truths that go against conventional wisdom. Ring the notification bell so you never miss these game-changing tips. Most importantly, come back to the comments section and share your results. Tell other exhausted parents whether this technique worked for your baby and how quickly you saw a difference. Your success story could be the encouragement another desperate parent needs to try something that feels uncomfortable but actually works. Remember, good parenting sometimes means doing what's best for your baby, not what feels right to your adult brain.